most of the year there is a lot of rain in this area, which is also the reason why we are here.
I must say I am happy. We saw very good work in Jinja. We saw good work in Dororo.
The government is doing a lot of work connecting up these remote villages with small renewable sources of energy so that the entire Uganda can be self-sufficient in electricity.
Looking forward, we expect that all of our projects should achieve financial close and commence construction this year.
We have enjoyed the support of ERA, who have been considerate in giving us a good license and good tariffs. And we look forward to continuing to contribute to the electricity supply in Uganda.
Now, Uganda is an internationally renowned destination for renewable energy investments, mainly as a result of
No, this is not an ordinary story about electricity. This is breathing new life into an industry that was thought to be lost entirely.
The existence of humans and the sustainability of economic activity depend on forests more than most people realize. Forests support the existence and sustainability of water bodies, utilized for a number of social and economic activities, including hydroelectricity generation, which currently contributes 79% to the country's energy mix. The Electricity Regulatory Authority, in keeping with its resolve to ensure the sustainability of the electricity supply industry, has restored the integrity of natural forests located in catchment areas of rivers that support hydropower generation.
This project is very vital to the electricity supply industry because forests are a catchment area for rivers. We use rivers to generate hydroelectricity power. So for sustainability of generation, we need the forests. So it is a matter of sustainability of electricity supply.
Much as the goal might be to ERA, but to us as NFA, we embrace such partnerships for purposes of forest restoration, looking at how the forests for a long time have suffered a continuous downward decline over a long period of time, which has been as a result of unsustainable human activities. So when we get such partnerships, we embrace them because they help us to restore.
The restoration has been conducted through the planting of assorted indigenous tree species.
Recording in progress.
We would like to invite members of the press. Thank you for taking time to participate in the hearing, because you're doing this on behalf of the audience that is unable to be here. Ladies and gentlemen, also allow me to notify you that we are live across the country. This hearing is broadcast through our digital platforms, our website, our Twitter, our YouTube. So please tweet, please notify your friend to tell a friend that the hearing is here. This is the opportunity of the public to take part in the setting of power tariffs. So this is a very important event. I will not take much of your time. I would like to take the pleasure to invite Engineer Ziria, the Chief Executive Officer, to come and deliver her opening remarks. And after that, she can invite the chair, who will also preside over the hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. The mistress of ceremony. I hope that is also a correct English word. We always have the masters of ceremony, but I'm happy that today we are gender balanced. The chairperson of the Electricity Regulatory Authority, my colleagues, the captains of the industry, representatives of my supervisors at policy level, those who are representing the members of parliament, specifically the Environment and Natural Resources Committee. Some of you may be representing them in this fora. Those of you are representing the policymakers, the different ministries, but especially the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development. Members of the press, invited the guests, physical and online, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Allow me, on behalf of the Electricity Regulatory Authority management and staff, I don't have the pleasure to say the board because the presiding officer is with us, to thank you for setting aside time to join us in this duty. It is our responsibility together with you to guide this process. Some housekeeping. We are holding this hearing after His Excellency, the President of Uganda, addressed the nation, calling upon us to observe the COVID-19 guidelines strictly. So please ensure that you are safe, you are distanced enough, and if you are not distanced enough, kindly pick a mask here at the back. We have masks at the back so that you comply for your own good, but also for the good of all of us. The Electricity Regulatory Authority supervises the electricity subsector in Uganda, a mandate we derive from the Electricity Act 1999, as amended by Act number 4 of 2022. The Act, among others, charges ERA with the responsibility of establishing the tariff structure and investigating charges whether or not a specific complaint has been made for tariff adjustments. In line with this mandate, the respective licenses issued to the respective companies in the generation, transmission, and distribution of electricity business on annual basis. The Electricity Regulatory Authority receives applications for tariff review. Consequently, at the beginning of November 2022, applications for tariff review for the tariff year 2023 were received from the following companies: the Uganda Electricity Generation Company Limited. Allow me to request the members from the Uganda Electricity Generation Company Limited to stand up. If you are representing UEGCL, stand up. That is the team that submitted this application, and they are here to defend, to present the application to the public and get your comments, questions, and requests for clarification. ESCOM Uganda Limited, I saw the MD and your team stand up for recognition. That is the team from ESCOM. Appreciate them. Thank you. The Uganda Electricity Transmission Company Limited, transmission, stand up with your team. We welcome you to undertake this noble duty. Thank you. The Uganda Electricity Distribution Company Limited, stand up, MD and your team. We welcome you to face the public to defend your application. And lastly, we received an application from Umeme Limited. Umeme and your team, please stand up. That's the team from Umeme. We welcome you and we thank you for turning up to present your application to the public. Colleagues, regulation number 5A of the Electricity Tariff Code Regulations 2003 calls for transparency in the tariff review process, and therefore, on 7th November 2022, a notice was published in the New Vision informing the public about the receipt of these applications and their availability on the ERA website for review and public scrutiny. Relatedly, today, we are holding a public hearing to further provide the public with an opportunity to take part in the tariff review process and to voice your views or concerns with regard to these applications. As indicated in the program, which you already have, all the applications, and indeed all the applications are available on our website, and we have copies, in soft copies, even with us here. But all the applicants will be presenting a summary of their applications today at this public hearing. I thus encourage the audience to listen attentively and use this opportunity to seek any clarifications, make comments, and air out your views or objectives or objections with respect to the applications. The views, suggestions, comments, and objections submitted here will be considered by the authority as it takes a decision on the tariff review applications, and indeed in the determination of the electricity retail end user tariffs for the tariff year 2023. With those few remarks, I take the honor to invite the presiding officer, who also doubles as the chairperson of the board of the Electricity Regulatory Authority, to deliver her remarks and also preside over the 2023 annual tariff review public hearing. I thank you, and the season we are going on demands that I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
The Honorable Members of Parliament and all political leaders present, the electricity supply industry executives present, members of the media fraternity, invited guests, both physical and online, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Once again, my name is Wasagali Sarah Kanabi, the Body Chair, Electricity Regulatory Authority, and the presiding officer at this public hearing. Allow me to welcome you to this public hearing, whose aim is to get views from the public on the 2023 tariff applications. And this is a key tenet of transparency and openness required of the authority in determining the tariff. Ladies and gentlemen, in the execution of its mandate, the authority is required to protect the interests of consumers in respect to quality, efficiency, continuity, and reliability of supply of the service. The authority is also to ensure that there is a fairly balanced interests of the consumers, the government, and the participants in the electricity subsector. We also consider the reasonableness of costs when we are determining the tariff. The tariff set is based on accurate costs provided by the operators. We also ensure a transparent formulation and review process. We also take into consideration the policies of the government and any other matters that the authority may consider likely to have a bearing on the operations of an applicant. Ladies and gentlemen, I can state very categorically that these provisions have always been put into consideration whenever we make decisions. I draw reference from the remarks of the Chief Executive Officer and emphasize that this is the opportunity for the public to take part in the process, and therefore it should be utilized effectively. I also wish to emphasize that the best tariff for 2023 will not be determined here. However, the authority will consider the views and submissions from all stakeholders received during the consultation process and the responses received from the licensees as we take the final decision. It is the board that will take the final decision. Allow me to extend my sincere appreciation to His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda for always prioritizing the energy sector. In the same vein, I wish to appreciate the Honorable Minister of Energy and Mineral Development, who has always given us policy guidance, especially when we make our quarterly reports to the Honorable Minister. She has always guided us. Allow me also to thank the electricity subsector stakeholders and the general public for the support you render to the authority in the execution of our mandate. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to mention that currently you are all aware that we are having a challenge of vandalizing the infrastructure, and I want to call upon all of you to combine efforts to fight this vice, because it is economic sabotage. It takes the country backwards. On behalf of the board, I wish to pledge our continued commitment to attaining a sustainable electricity supply for the socio-economic transformation of our country. Once again, I want to thank you all for taking part in this year's public hearing, and I wish you fruitful deliberations. Thank you. For God and my country. Allow me to call upon the Secretary to the authority to give us the rules of the public hearing. Secretary.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stephen Mwanda, and it's a pleasure to address you this morning. As indicated by the chairperson, the presiding officer, my role is to guide you on how we are going to engage effectively this morning. As the chairperson and the chief executive officer have alluded to in their remarks, the purpose of this public hearing is to promote transparency, openness, and a participatory approach in matters that relate to electricity consumers and the industry at large. So this is how we are going to engage. First of all the presiding officer will be in charge. She will take charge of this engagement. All communication will be through and by her permission. I hope that you have all registered as you entered this room. If you have not, kindly register. We need to take a register of all of you who have participated in this public hearing. The meeting has been called to order, and the chairperson and the chief executive officer have given a brief background of this public hearing. It will be preceded by applications, presentation of applications from our licensees. Key to note is that we shall be brief and concise and to the point, so that we allow sufficient time for engagement with our stakeholders. Participants who wish to make any contribution or presentation will raise their hands, and it shall be at the discretion of the presiding officer to determine and choose who will speak. So raise your hand if you have a comment to make, and the presiding officer will give you an opportunity depending on the time. This hearing will be conducted in English, but where need arises, an interpreter can be provided, but it will be predominantly conducted in English. If given an opportunity to speak, please indicate your name and the organization or institution you represent, and so that we can take a note of those details. Most importantly, let's control our mobile devices. Let's put them on silent, or even better, switch off. If you can't control them, then you switch off so that we don't get unnecessary interruption. Also, we have participants who are joining online. We request you to observe the etiquette of online meetings. Most importantly, keep your microphone on mute at all times. And if you have a comment or any information you wish to relay, use the chat facility. Our team will get that information, and it will reach wherever it needs to reach. So just use those facilities. And let's listen. Let's exercise patience with each other. Let's not attack each other. Sometimes these discussions get heated. Let's control ourselves so that we can listen and engage in an effective and efficient manner. Finally, just to emphasize that all your comments from this hearing will be taken into account by the authority when arriving at the final decision. I thank you, and I wish you fruitful deliberations.
Thank you very much, Council Stephen. We are now going to do business. Allow me to invite Uganda Electricity Generation Company Limited to make their presentation in 20 minutes. UEGC.
Morning, everyone. My name is Susan Tafumba Isubikalu. I work with UEGCL as the Manager Management Accounting. I will be taking us through the application from UEGCL in line with Chirana Lubale. I'm just waiting for... Okay, so the presentation summary includes just a brief profile on UEGCL, concession monitoring, then we'll have our assumptions for the budget for financial year 23-24. As you know, we budget in line with the government cycle, so we usually do requests from July to June, but I know somehow ERA manages to align our requests within the calendar year tariff application. And then we'll have our budget estimates, then we'll have our tariff and tariff methodology, and finally our capital investment plan for Chiranalu Valley. So just a brief profile on UEGCL. We have been in operation for 21 years. Since April 2021, we are solely owned by government and governed by a board of directors. And we work within the policy of Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development. And then currently we have 3 licenses. We are regulated by ERA. We have 3 licenses that are currently running. We have that one for Isimba O1M, we have Karuma O1M, and then we have Namave Thermal Power Plant. And today we are here to defend our request for the application for Chiranalu Valley license. Our mandate entails establishing, acquiring, maintaining and operating electricity generation facilities. We have the hydropower, we have the thermal, we are also looking into research and development for solar to be able to diversify our sector. And this is being done in line with the company sound business principles. So just a brief on the concession monitoring. We wanted to tell the public what we've been doing in terms of concession monitoring. We currently have a concession with ESCOM, and this has been running for about close to, I think we're in the 19th year. The concession started in, UGCL basically owns the plant, Chiranalu Valley, in line with the government requirements. But in 2003, a concession was signed with ESCOM to be able to manage the operation and maintenance of the plant. These plants are 180 megawatts and 200 megawatts respectively. So under this concession, we, as UEGCL, were allowed to bill for debt service, depreciation, return on equity, and administrative costs. We have successfully got approval for majorly the administrative costs because ERA, as much as possible, was in the interest of keeping the tariff low. So that is where we had a few challenges, but we have been able to still monitor the concession. So as UEGCL, our responsibility in line with the concession was to monitor the activities that have been done by ESCOM to ensure that they conform with the requirements of the concession and assignment agreement. And this monitoring is done periodically in terms of inspections, analysis and review of the reports that are submitted by ESCOM. We have a team of engineers that are managing that activity of monitoring on the technical aspect. And then we also have other functions, the support functions that also manage the other activities in line with to support the technical team. So why we are here today, as you can see, the concession is actually coming to an end. It was 20 years, and in March 2023, our concession and assignment agreement with ESCOM will be coming to an end. So why the takeover? Cabinet, as a decision made within Cabinet, that renewal of the CAA will not be done with ESCOM, and also the fact that ESCOM expressed interest not to renew the concession. So effectively, UEGCL will be taking over the operation and maintenance of the plant come 1st April 2023. Just a brief on the achievements to date, in line of what we've been doing with the monitoring the concession. UEGCL undertook a feasibility study for rehabilitation and optimization of the plant, and then we successfully harmonized the position on the status of Nalubale Powerhouse following the numerous studies that had been performed. UEGCL also played a role in line with agreeing on the plant and modifications that were to be undertaken during the concession monitoring period, and also played a key oversight role in implementation of the same modifications. And finally, in terms of the concession achievements, we also had previously a challenge of impairment of our assets, and we managed to resolve that by doing a revaluation of those assets, which also heavily supported our, they had a huge impact on the implication of our assets, and therefore improving the performance of the balance sheet. So why we are here today majorly, we have an application to operate and maintain Chirana Lubale. We've put in an application for the tariff within the financial year. And our assumptions for this application is majorly based on a few issues. We have inflation there, where we've assumed 10%, and this was based on the Bank of Uganda monetary policy statement that was issued in October 2022. We all know how the inflation rate has been shooting up. So we hope that this can also be evidently considered so that we can be able to operate effectively without really squeezing the costs. In terms of the Forex, we also know that was very volatile within the past period. We know that there's been an improvement there. The time we made the application, I think BOU had a rate of 3,744. This has actually dropped. The shilling has appreciated, but we are making a request of 3,900 just so that we are prudent enough not to have challenges going forward. In terms of the cost allocation methodology, we have shared costs. What I mean by shared costs, we have, I'll give an example of our top management team. They effectively manage all the business units within UEGCL. We also have the board. We also have other costs which support running of the organization and effectively have impact in performance of all the business units and the plants. So previously we discussed with ERA and they recommended that we have a cost allocation that will cut across, that will be able to tap into all the business units to fund those costs. So we are picking a 32% to be funded by Chirana Lubale. The basis of our cost allocation methodology currently is based on staff numbers, and that is where we are coming from. Our plant factor for Chirana Lubale is 60%, and then we have our plant availability at 97%. Our sales will be energy-based, and we are looking at a staffing of about 126, and we've tried to benchmark this with what is currently at ESCOM. So this is looking at a summary of our budget application for Chirana Lubale. When you look at our revenue, we've made an application of 58 billion, and we shall see where this is coming from. This is based on an application of a tariff of 1.274, and we shall see how we've arrived at that shortly in a summary. So our revenue is 58 billion, and we've also made an application of the return on equity. And why are we requesting for this? In the concession and assignment agreement, this was provided for, as I had earlier mentioned, how we were billing for within the concession and assignment agreement. We know that we had challenges previously, but why are we requesting for this money? Because we need to be able to fund our capital investment plan. And that is coming to about 73 billion, and it's looking at 10% of the net assets. And then when we look at, so our overall revenue is coming to 131.2 billion. When we look at our expenditure, we have our staff costs coming at 21 billion, and this has been in line with the staffing that I already shared, 126 staff. Then we have our administrative costs coming at 24.7 billion. This has also been benchmarked with the costs that are currently being incurred by ESCOM, and our CAPEX is coming at 12 billion. Our CAPEX was at 12 billion within the first year of operations. Why? Because based on the independent engineer's report, we had some activities that were not, some projects that were pending being carried out, but because of the time frame, this has been recommended that UEGCL picks them off eventually when we take over. We now want to go through how we've come up with our tariff and the methodology we've applied, and we'll also be talking about our capital investment plan. I want to invite Dr. Jemima, Acting COO, Chief Operating Officer, to take us through this. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Good morning. I'll just pick it on from where Susan stopped. So in terms of our tariff, the tariff we are applying for, the average tariff we are looking at least for the license period, is 1.274. And that is meant to meet our revenue requirements. That includes the staff costs, the admin costs, the O&M costs, and a bit of the investment that we need to make on the plant. With these revenue targets, we also estimated the average energy sales in the year at about 1.3 gigawatt hours, and that's how we arrived at the tariff that we have. What you see there is an indicative figure for the license period, the average. What's key to note here is that the tariff will be set at the beginning of the year, and based on our revenue targets, also our investments will be discussed with ERA annually, and that will also contribute to the final tariff that would be approved for the subsequent year. The tariff also is not cast in stone. It will also be adjusted quarterly for any shortfalls or surpluses in dispatch, because it's mainly dependent on the energy sales we anticipate for the year. But if within a quarter we have not been able to meet the target, then the tariff can be adjusted accordingly. Or if we've overshot from the target, the tariff can be revised downwards as well. We'll also be adjusting it for any macroeconomic factors where you have issues of exchange rates, especially with regards to investments, where you have changes in the dollar rate and things like that. Then lastly, I already mentioned that our investments, we have an overall CAPEX plan you'll see on the next slide, but our investments will be discussed with ERA annually. We'll submit our 5-year plan, and if in principle it's agreed, annually we shall be reviewing and agree on what we shall be taking on in the subsequent year when we discuss the tariff. This is an overview of what we project in terms of the CAPEX for the two plants over the license term. And we see that if we need an average of about $4 million annually to be able to do these activities. And what informs this CAPEX is really a couple of things. One of them is some of the projects that are not completed as recommended by the independent engineer's report. Then also we have some activities with regards to the ASR events that are included in this. We have also life cycle activities for the different equipment that we have to ensure that they continue to perform as we expect. We also do have some projects that were rising because of the rise in lake levels, things like bettering our monitoring and then maybe provision for better operation of our spillways to ensure that we guard against some of those envisioned risks. And then last but not least are like major spares that we would need for the plant over that period. So all these in total led to that overall projection of the capex. And maybe just to dive into the 12 billion that was included in next year's tariff application, some of the things that we're looking at, floating boom, that's critical for lake levels and also to ensure we do not have floating islands coming to distract the activities on the plant. Then we have the lake level monitoring system. We need to do some work on dam safety, riverbank restoration, and so many other projects. These are some of the projects that we intend to do the moment we take over. And this list will also be enhanced by some more projects we might get from ESCOM during the transition period. So, maybe to summarize the entire presentation, we are requesting for a return. Okay, this is the last slide. So we are requesting for a return on equity of about 73 billion. And this was really based, as Susan had mentioned during her presentation, it was based on what we had previously had in the CAA that we were not able to get during that time. But also, it will allow us to better plan for the different works we have to do at the plant, rehabilitation, and also to keep the plant running as it should, to ensure that we are reliable and we are sustainable in our generations. That's the end of my presentation, Chair.
Thank you very much. Round of applause for UDCL.
Thank you.
Thank you. The questions will come at the end of all the presentations. So please note down your issues you would like to raise. Thank you, UDCL. My regards to your MD. Can I now invite presentation from UEDCL? You also have 20 minutes.
The authority chairperson, the CEO, Electricity Regulatory Authority, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed, good morning. My name is Jenkins Miro from UETCL, the Acting Manager Finance, representing the Chief Executive Officer who is unable to be with us here. Is attending the annual, the AGM for UETCL, which is happening at the same time. I'll be presenting our application for the year 2023 to 2025. UETCL will operate under a multi-year tariff framework, whereby a base tariff is set for the 3-year period, and adjustments are done for movements in exchange rate, CPI, and pass-through costs, the energy purchase cost. So the structure of the presentation, I'll give a brief of the UETCL. Strategic focus areas, highlights on the power supply, sales, key achievements, status of ongoing projects, key achievements and mitigation measures. Then we'll go into our multi-year budget, and then the key focus areas during the upcoming multi-year period. And then we'll present a summary of our annual revenue requirement. UETCL is a limited liability company, 100% owned by government. And the shareholders, we have Ministry of Energy and the Ministry of Finance. Our vision, electricity transmission for sustainable regional development, and the mission is highlighted there. We have 5 licenses, 4 with the Electricity Regulatory Authority and 1 with UCC. And the first one is bulk power supply, which is basically the single buyer model, buying power from all the power generators and transmitting and selling it to the distributors. We have a license, operation of the high voltage network above 66 and above. Then we have a system operator model, and then we have the license for power import and export. Then the public infrastructure license with UCC, where we operate our optic fiber business. The strategic focus areas for the company, we have sustainable financial growth, supply of security of power supply and regional cooperation, accelerated grid infrastructure development and stimulation of demand. Then we have robust human capital development and efficient business processes. So these are in drafting our budget, we are guided by those focus areas as per our CBP. So in terms of the summary of the power supply and sales highlights indicated below, if you look at the maximum system demand, because we have a license for a system operator, so we monitor that through our National Control Center, which is located at Rugogo. So 2019-2020, the system demand was 729. 2020-21, 747. And for the current period, 2021-22, it's projected to be around 816 megawatts. And the domestic is also indicated there. In the interest of time, I will not go through that. Installed capacity, by the end of the current financial year, it is projected to be around 1,350. And annual growth in peak system demand is projected to be 9%. And then domestic, 10%. So the system demand includes even export. So that's the summary of the energy purchases from the different IPPs. Different categories. We have large hydros, and the thermals, the mini hydros, cogeneration, solar, and imports. So in the interest of time, I will not go through the figures, but it's highlighted there for members to appreciate. And from the figures, you realize that a bulk of our supply is from the large hydros. Almost around 70-80% is from the hydros, followed by the mini hydros. Then we have the solar and then the cogeneration plants. So that is our mix, generation mix currently. So in terms of the sales, domestic is highlighted in the table. By the end of the period 2021-22, it's projected to be around 4,603 gigawatt hours. For domestic, export 453, and then the total is 5,056 gigawatt hours. The key achievements during the previous multi-year period, of course, we have expansion of the grid to the Karamoja region following commissioning of the Opio-Moroto transmission line, and we are able to connect that region to the national grid. We are able to increase the transformation capacity at Opio substation, which helped in improving reliability of supply in that region. We are able also to energize the Opio-Lila line, the new line, 132 kV. Originally, we were supplying them on the wooden. So by energizing the 132 new line, that also improved on the reliability of power supply within that region. And also reduced on the maintenance, because the wooden lines are quite expensive to maintain. So by upgrading, it reduces also on the maintenance costs. We are able to extend power to the industrial parks. Among them, we have Mukono, Namave, and Ruzira. Ruzira, we are having challenges, of course, but we hope by the end of this year that will be energized. The substation is ready. It's just a few challenges with the lines, which are being handled. We are able to complete the Bujagari substation extension and energize that infrastructure on 220. It was originally being operated on 132 kV. Successfully, we tested the Uganda-Rwanda interconnector, and it's energized up to the border, just waiting for a few formalities to have the power flow to power trade happen with Rwanda. And we successfully tested the Karuma-Kawanda 400 kV. The line is ready, waiting the commissioning of the plant, and it's energized currently. And also, we were able to test and energize the Karuma-Orio 132 kV, which helped in boosting power supply in the West Nile region. Areas of Pakwachi and the surrounding Nebi, they are now connected to the main grid. But the long term is to have the grid extended all the way to Arua, and that is expected to happen by March 2023. This is a list of the ongoing projects for members to take note, and there are different categories. We have projects for power evacuation. We have projects for system reinforcement, basically to boost the network and strengthen the network. We have lines which are basically aimed at extending the network to new load centers. So the list is highlighted there. I will not go through each, but I'm sure the presentation will be shared on the website, and members can, at an appropriate time, go through this. The list continues. We have a number of projects ongoing under UETCL, and our budget application is actually driven by these ongoing projects, among others. So in terms of challenges, under single buyer, the biggest challenge we have is the deemed energy, mainly due to, first of all, lack of demand, and secondly, the weak infrastructure used to evacuate these hydro plants. This is mainly with the embedded small mini hydros. Ideally, these plants should be consumed within the locality. However, due to lack of demand in the areas where they are located, you find that we have to evacuate that power to the nearest load centers. Of course, we have challenges with the collection with our distributor customers we are managing. Then depreciation of the shilling. That's a very big driver for our costs, because 90% of our costs are single buyer, as you will see. And we get our revenue in Uganda shillings, and we pay in forex, in foreign currency. So we experience big challenges with of course, with when there is a fluctuation in the shilling against the other currencies. Transmission system, the biggest challenge we have right now, which is a nightmare, is vandalism of the UETCL infrastructure. And this one, of course, of recent, we've been in the media. I think members are aware of it, whereby someone comes, cuts the infrastructure, the tower, and it collapses. And when one tower collapses, it brings down maybe 3 or 5 more towers. And the risk is the country will be exposed to maybe a major blackout. Currently, 3 lines from Jinja actually have been affected. And all our generation, you remember I indicated that 90% of our supply is from the mini hydro, from the large hydros. And those large hydros are situated in Jinja. You have Bujagari there, you have ESCOM. So the biggest source of supply is that. And that is a critical infrastructure, not only for the company, but also for the country. If anything is to happen, then the entire country will be exposed. So we have another challenge of acquisition of the corridor for our new projects. You saw we have a very big project portfolio we are undertaking, and most of our lines traverse greenfield areas. So you acquiring basically acquiring a corridor where the projects, the lines will pass is a challenge. And this is mainly because land acquisition, especially now, maybe the land laws we have here, they don't even favor compulsory acquisition, despite the projects being in the national interest. Then the other challenge, of course, is the transmission losses, which we incur in the process of transmitting power from the generator to the load centers. The other challenge, of course, is inadequate regional power interconnectors to enable trade and exchange of power. We've had this debate that we have a lot of surplus power, but like the Excellence usually puts it, it's a good problem to have that. And we are creating, because when industries are coming here, someone to set up an industry will not wait for you to set up a power plant before he sets up an industry. So for you to attract investment in industries, you need to give assurance to the investors that you have reliable and cheap power supply. And it's from that background that government took the initiative to invest in the 2 large hydro plants, Isimba and Karuma. Then we have a challenge of wooden infrastructure. I've hinted on that. Transformation capacity, it's still a challenge. Then we have funding for our grid investment plan. Those are some of the mitigation measures. Of course, for deemed energy, fast tracking the 132 kV transmission line to APE. We are coming up with, the regulator came up with wheeling agreements, which we are supposed to execute with the distributors to ensure availability of the grid. That will also help to reduce on the deemed energy challenges we are having from the embedded generators. The transmission system, of course, vandalism, we are exploring different options and benchmarking with our colleagues within the region. But one of the option we are looking at is installing infra-based monitoring system to curb vandalism, where you have maybe like a system which sends signals if one tries to tamper with the vandalism. The challenge there will be the response time. Yes, the system will trigger, but how robust is your response time? And that's what actually what has also informed our budgeting. Then we are working with the security agents to curb vandalism, sensitization of the public, of course, working together with our colleagues. This is not only a UETCL challenge, but it also affects our colleagues even in distribution and UMEME and UEGCL. Assumptions for our next multi-year indicated there. Of course, we are projecting a growth of 8% in terms of demand. Then we have the transmission losses as given, 4.1, 4.0, and 3.4 for the year. We expect during that period to have around 48 IPPs contributing to the generation mix. And then availability, to ensure availability of 90% of our grid, and then the exchange rate as given there, and the CPI. The key focus areas highlighted: grid extension to grow demand, evacuation of power from the new generation plants expected during the multi-year, strengthening the network to improve supply reliability, extension of power to the new industrial parks, tower protection system, proactive operation and maintenance. The list is there. I will not go through the entire list, but I think it's very clear. Safety and environment, that is very critical for our operation, safety and environment, ensuring a favorable work environment for our team, and also replacement of lattice towers with monopoles for those areas which are prone to vandalism, like around Mavira. We have a plan of replacing the lattice towers with monopoles to curb against vandalism. So in terms of single buyer budget, that is the budget 2023, 2024, and 2025. We have 1.3 trillion in 2023, 1.4 trillion in 2024, and 1.5 trillion respectively. Okay. That's the summary of the budget. For the transmission system operator cost, of course, it's driven by the number of substations expected, around 24 additional substations. We have 59 transformers expected to be added on the system. We have the number of kilometers. We expect to add around 4,000 kilometers of transmission network to our system. So this is the summary of our O&M budget, 117 billion, 125, and 130 for 2025. The capital expenditure is highlighted below per each. I will not go through each item because of the interest of time. But 2023, we are looking at 52 billion for capital, 60, 2024, and 2025, 39 billion. And this is mainly aimed at strengthening the system. Of course, the major ones, we have communication equipment. We have the SCADA system to improve our role as a system operator, whereby we want all the plants connected to our SCADA system. Of course, we have the operation and maintenance related capital costs for transmission lines, and then substation. This is the non-tariff income we expect to receive. We have 25 billion in 2023, 20 billion in 2024, 30 billion, no, 20 in 2025. So this is a summary of our annual revenue requirement for the 3-year period, and we have in total 1.5 trillion in 2025, 1.6 trillion in 2024, and 1.66 trillion in 2025. So in terms of the tariff application, for the transmission system operator cost, the tariff for 2022 is 32 shillings. 2023 is 27 shillings. 2024, 27, and 2025 it's 22. And the single buyer, we have 232, 247, 240, and 223. So a bulk of our revenue requirements is towards the single buyer, the energy purchase cost, as you will see. Almost around 95% of the cost will go towards the energy purchase costs, and maybe around 5% thereabout will go to our operation and maintenance costs, including even the capex. So what is our prayer for this public hearing? We request support to have a cost-reflective tariff to enable the company undertake its mandate as per the licenses given by the authority. Thank you, members.
Thank you very much, Mr. Miro. Allow I adjust the program slightly. We postponed the break tea and have one more presentation by UEDCL. And after the presentation, we shall break for tea. Thank you. UEDCL.
Good morning, members. Protocol observed. I'm Paul Mwesigwa, UEDCL, Managing Director. So the presentation is going to be in two sessions. One, the general overview of the institution, UEDCL. Then the detailed tariff application will be presented by the CFO. I need to be educated here. It has worked. Thank you very much. So we are going to look at the background of the institution, our footprint, where we do operate, the strategic directions of the institution, and the detailed tariff application. Sorry. I think I'm missing something here. Yeah. UDCL is 100% owned by the government of Uganda, and it is licensed by the Electricity Regulatory Authority, ERA, under the license number 53 as the asset owner of the distribution network under the 33 kV. But this network, especially in the urban centers in 2005, it was leased to Umeme Limited for purposes of attracting private capital investment for a period of 20 years. And this concession is coming to an end in 2025. In the subsequent amendment of our license, we have a mandate and a license to operate other business units. That's the power plant, the tower, where we sit. We do also carry out project constructions, and at the same time, we do retail power distributions in the areas outside the Umeme boundaries. These are mainly rural areas which were connected on the grid through the Ministry of Energy and electrification programs. They are not commercially viable, so a government institution, UEDCL, we took them over and we've made them survive for the best. So there is an assignment agreement signed in 2005, placed UEDCL to represent the interests of the government in the distribution network by overseeing what the concessionaire is doing, that's Umeme. So our mandate is to monitor the performance of the network, what the investment done by Umeme, and after that period, the decision will be done. In addition to our main concession, we received the money and expand the network in the West Nile region. That is under Weneleko. Now that network, we signed an MOU with Weneleko. We are in charge of the network, and Weneleko is operating on our behalf up to 2025. There is an assignment agreement section 9.2 of the asset ownership as mandated. It requires UEDCL to submit to the authority our annual budget, and this is what we're doing today. The methodology, we are taking into consideration the debt requirements in the tariff, the depreciation, return on equity, and the administration fees. Where are we stationed? As we talk, any red point, we have an office across the country, and we have 48 offices surrounding the institution of Umeme plus other operators. You take a note, some of the yellow highlighted areas, they are shared with other operators because some of the lines are intermingled. In the blacker spot in the center of Uganda, that's where our offices are in Kampala, and our factory is located at Rugogo. Thank you very much. I could request the CFO to come and take over. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Jacqueline Chuanka is my name. I'm CFO UEDCL. I'll be taking you through the strategic direction and then the detailed application. Okay, sorry. Sorry. I need some help because it seems to be going forward. I need to go back. Thank you. Apologies. In terms of strategic direction, we have a strategic plan that started in 2020, 2021. So for the year where we are applying for the tariff is the fourth year of the plan. And the key focus areas, the first one is business growth, where we want to achieve sustainability of the different units that we have, this being one of them. The second focus is customer service excellence, where we want to improve supply and quality of service. And then the next is operational efficiency, where we want to achieve a reduced input through improved processes and motivated staff. The deliverables of that plan, the first one is to increase the asset useful life. The other is for us to increase our customer base because that will be the basis of our revenue. And then we want to have power availability at 95%. Also, another key deliverable is our energy loss, which is at 20%. And we also want to have value for money for our direct operating and maintenance costs. So those are the deliverables for the strategic plan. The others also are to continue to be compliant. We also have a pole plant, and we are targeting a production of 100,000 poles per year. We want to achieve an earnings before interest and tax and amortization of 10%. But also, while we're trying to do all this, we want to grow our numbers of staff to be able to achieve the strategic plan. In our detailed tariff application, we are going to go through the performance against the immediate complete year, which is 2021-22. And then we have a brief reminder of the approval for the year we are implementing. And then we'll finalize with the application for 2023-24. In our performance highlights, we are looking at what we were able to achieve. We had growth in our networks, both the low voltage and medium voltage. Our customer base grew by 6,900 new connections. So cumulatively, at the end of the year, we had 96,000 customers. Our transformers, which help us improve power availability, increased by 435. So our count at the end of that year was 3,200 transformers. Our power availability was 92%. So we are slightly below what our target is, but hopefully by the end of the strategic period we would have hit 95%. On health, safety, and environment, there were a number of activities that were carried out in the year. We had campaigns, both with the public and with staff, aimed at safety awareness. With the environment, we continue to support the outgrowing scheme. We have outgrowers whom we continue to support to reclaim in the environment. Then we also have a mechanism of disposing of poles that have been recovered from the network to ensure that they are not reused for purposes that will further damage the environment. On our energy loss performance, during the year, the error target was 20.1%, but our actual loss was 25% plus 18% evacuation loss. This is attributed to the mini dams that we have on the network that is relating to the evacuation loss. When we look at the performance against the application that was approved, that is what is showing now. The regulator approved a budget of 8.4 billion, and that summary there is showing how we did against that approval. I'll not go through every line, but overall, we had a saving of 13%. So for most of the costs, we were below the budget for reasons that we'll see ahead. The only outlier there is transportation, which explanation we'll see in the following slides. On staff costs, we were below budget, but mostly this is because we didn't get all the staff that we required because there is a process to get approval from the Ministry of Public Service. And so costs, salaries, and all related benefits. Then on transportation, which is where we overspent, the impact of the high fuel prices was a major one, but at the same time, we have an aging fleet and we have a wide network, so maintenance costs is becoming a bit of a challenge. On administration costs, we still had a saving, but that's because we did not get to implement all the activities that we had planned to. Just a reminder of the approval for the year we are implementing. The regulator approved 8 billion, but this was against an application of 42 billion, which we had submitted. The approval was based on an inflationary adjustment of 2.7% over the previous year. We are not assessing our performance because we've just gone over one quarter, so it would not be a good representation. When we look at the application for 2023-24, Our major consideration is the monitoring costs required as per the LAA and WNRECO agreement. And in this year, we have additional tasks that are going to be carried out in line with this mandate, particularly as we draw closer to 2025. So there's some need for consultancy, for independent reviews, but at the same time, our monitoring activities are going to increase. That is a summary of the application. We have a total of 42.9 billion. Of course, this is significantly higher than what was approved for the previous year. The major contributors to this, under administration will explain later, we are requiring refund for depreciation, which is 14 billion. And then there's also a request for registration fees, which we'll also see in the next slides. When we look at staff costs, this number is growing in comparison to the approval for this year that we're implementing. We have made an inflationary adjustment across for all costs of 10%, and so this is also impacting it. We have also provided for additional staff. In our strategic plan, there are positions that we have which we haven't yet filled. We have managers and we have officers. Some smaller sections do not have managers, so we are providing for that. Medical costs, we are also anticipating increase in staff and their dependents. The subsistence allowance is related to the fact that we expect that monitoring is going to intensify as we head to 2025. Then we'll still continue to train staff, especially as the business requirements keep changing. On administration costs, and this is one of the ones that are increasing significantly, on concession monitoring, that's where we are emphasizing we are going to monitor more now as per LAA. The director's allowances in the previous year, there were positions that were not filled, and now they are full, so we have a full board. On consultancy, this is where we are going to require independent reviews by technical teams on the status of the network as we go closer to the expiry of the concession. Then we have third-party claims, and these relate to well leaves. We are impacted by well leaves, and this arises out of disputes with property owners as we build the network. This continues to be a problem, and so that amount is a big one. We have 3.6 billion that is related to well leaves. Then on software, I think this is in line with the growing business. We are going to invest a bit more in software. Our capital requirement for the period is 1.2 billion. We are increasing our fleet, again in anticipation of increased movement across the Umeme network as well as ours. We have made a request for technical equipment, for ICT equipment, and an assortment of furniture. So our total requirement is 1.2 billion. This is just emphasis on other costs, which I've already talked about. On depreciation, and in line with the agreements that we have, we need to get a refund of the depreciation we incur on the investment in the network. So for the period, we have included 14.2 billion. I've mentioned well leaves. That amount is a provision. What we were talking about before is well leaves that actually have been claimed and are before court. This is now just a provision because of the nature of business, we can anticipate that we are going to meet well leave applications. Then the registration fees, that's an explanation. In 2020, the shareholder of UDCL approved for some of our debt to be converted to equity, and that this will be done through the tariff. So we continue to include it in the application in the hope that this will be implemented. That's the end of our presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, UDCL. And I think we've now had our break. So let's break for tea. For the benefit of those online, it will be 30 minutes. We will return
social and economic activities, including hydroelectricity generation, which currently contributes 79% to the country's energy mix. The Electricity Regulatory Authority, in keeping with its resolve to ensure
our breakfast is served just outside this room, so we can make our way there. Thank you.
of rivers that support hydropower generation.
This project is very vital to the electricity supply industry because forests are a catchment area for rivers.
To restore.
The restoration has been conducted through the planting of assorted indigenous tree species in each Central Forest Reserve managed by the National Forestry Authority in order to restore the forest ecosystem values, including the water and tree stocks lost from the reserves as a result of forest degradation.
We shall ensure that the plants sustainably generate power because once the forest recovers, it will ensure sustainability. And it's not only this forest, but we have different forests in different parts of the country. This is the third phase.
This forest is very critical to national development in that it supports electricity generation in this country. So whatever electricity we receive from Koima City is partly generated from the river, which is protected by this forest.
Currently, the world is grappling with the effects of climate change, and one most important way to bring these effects down is by establishing forest reserves, restoring the degraded ones, and protecting and conserving the existing ones.
Approximately 60 hectares of forest cover have been restored in Olom, Wamale, Wambabia, and Laura Central Forest Reserves located in the northern, central, western, and West Nile regions respectively.
In 2016, ERA was recognized as an exemplary organization in terms of environmental compliance by the National Environment Management Authority. So it's one thing we are proud of.
And we have resolved to ensure that we have a sound environmental governance.
In order for us to conserve the forest reserves, we all have to come together. That is why today I am very much grateful to ERA for partnering with us, to work with us to restore up to 60 hectares of forest reserves in 4 different regions of Uganda.
I thank NFA and ERA for this important engagement, which is called the Wambabia Central Reserve, 5 hectares restoration. It's a very important engagement and it has come at the right time.
It is incumbent on us that we preserve nature, we conserve the Central Forest Reserves, and also the trees even outside the forest reserves for this unique purpose.
Now, more than ever, our planet needs us to step up and take action towards its restoration and combat.
1 2 1 2. Hello. Hello. 1 2 1 2 1 2.
This is not an ordinary story about electricity. This is a story set in a country with shortage of electricity. A country that has so much potential to produce megawatts and megawatts of electricity. This is Uganda, rich in culture, beauty, and land. This is a country with a long and rich history in producing sufficient electricity. The ongoing investments being made here are directed towards setting up a sustainable infrastructure. It creates wealth and industrialization and offers a stable livelihood to thousands of people in the country. It's not the only solution, but sustainable electricity generation can contribute to a diversified economy, which in turn sets in motion a positive impact.
The country was faced with a power supply crisis, and the government had to come up with a program that could incentivize private investors in power generation.
In May 2013, with support from development partners, Government of Uganda launched the Get Fit program to fast-track the development of renewable energy generation projects.
The objectives were to bring 170 megawatts of renewable energies to the grid by 2018.
This was aimed at managing the country's demand-supply balance before the commissioning of large hydro plants.
The program has been very successful. So far, 17 projects have been licensed, including 2 solar projects based in Soroti and Tororo.
But overall, I think the objectives of the program have been met. A lot of the framework that was intended to be set up in the Ugandan energy sector has now been set up. All the documents have been standardized, and it's easier for investors to come into the sector and develop renewable energy projects as a result of GetFit.
We have attracted private sector investment in the field, which was not forthcoming under the previous arrangement.
It is from this background that ERA had to organize a trip to these power plants so that they can acquaint themselves with the progress of GetFit projects. The board of ERA and members of the Natural Resources Committee of Parliament embarked on a monitoring tour of project sites and electrical installations.
On this tour, we have visited quite a number of projects. We visited the Hoima substation, the mini substation at Hoima. We visited the Waki hydropower project in western Uganda. We also visited the Kusi hydropower project, again in western Uganda. We visited Nyamwamba hydropower project, which is also under construction in Kasese. And we also visited the Ikenda substation, which is a transmission substation in Kasese. In the eastern part of the country, we have visited City 1 and City 2 hydropower projects with a combined generation capacity of 22 megawatts. And we have also visited the Access Solar PV project in Soroti, which is going to produce 10 megawatts.
I was impressed personally, and the community is very happy because this is the first plant that is trying to utilize our abundant sunshine, solar power to generate electricity. And they are going to generate 10 megawatts, which they will feed into the grid.
The visit for ERA has been very much appreciated. It was very good that the decision makers at the highest levels of government decided to visit these projects to get first-hand information.
This journey has acquainted us with the key information, what is being done in the sector.
We have done substantial progress, which is not probably known to the majority of the Ugandans. How much work is being done in the remote regions of Uganda, bringing renewable energy to electrify the masses of Uganda.
The challenge is that we did not go much into the taxation issues and their implications on the financial viability of these projects.
The biggest challenge I have seen is of land compensation. These wires, these high voltage wires, pass through people's land, and according to the law, land belongs to the people. So compensation, people have not been compensated, and people are not happy.
From these interactions, we found a challenge that we are generating a lot of power, but the trend at which we are distributing it to the consumer seems not to be moving at the same pace.
The biggest challenge has been the access to the project area. As you can see, it is a very remote area, and most of the year there is a lot of rain in this area, which is also the reason why we are here.
I must say I am happy. We saw very good work in Jinja. We saw good work in Dororo.
The government is doing a lot of work connecting up these remote villages with small renewable sources of energy so that the entire Uganda can be self-sufficient in electricity.
Looking forward, we expect that all of our projects should achieve financial close and commence construction this year.
We have enjoyed the support of ERA, who have been considerate in giving us a good license and good tariffs. And we look forward to continuing to contribute to the electricity supply in Uganda.
Now, Uganda is an internationally renowned destination for renewable energy investments, mainly as a result of that.
No, this is not an ordinary story about electricity. This is breathing new life into an industry that was thought to be lost entirely.
The existence of humans and the sustainability of economic activity depend on forests more than most people realize. Forests support the existence and sustainability of water bodies, utilized for a number of social and economic activities, including hydroelectricity generation, which currently contributes 79% to the country's energy mix. The Electricity Regulatory Authority, in keeping with its resolve to ensure the sustainability of the electricity supply industry, has restored the integrity of natural forests located in catchment areas of rivers that support hydropower generation.
This project is very vital to the electricity supply industry because forests are a catchment area for rivers. We use rivers to generate hydroelectricity power. So for sustainability of generation, we need the forests. So it is a matter of sustainability of electricity supply.
Much as the goal might be to ERA, but to us as NFA, we embrace such partnerships for purposes of forest restoration, looking at how the forests for a long time have suffered a continuous downward decline over a long period of time, which has been as a result of unsustainable human activities. So when we get such partnerships, we embrace them because they help us to restore.
The restoration has been conducted through the planting of assorted indigenous tree species in each Central Forest Reserve managed by the National Forestry Authority, in order to restore the forest ecosystem values, including the water and tree stocks lost from the reserves as a result of forest degradation.
We shall ensure that the plants sustainably generate power because once the forest recovers, it will ensure sustainability. And it's not only this forest, but we have different forests in different parts of the country. This is the third phase.
This forest is very critical to national development in that it supports electricity generation in this country. So whatever electricity we receive from Koima City is partly generated from the river, which is protected by this forest.
Currently, the world is grappling with the effects of climate change, and one most important way to bring these effects down is by establishing forest reserves, restoring the degraded ones, and protecting and conserving the existing ones.
Approximately 60 hectares of forest cover have been restored in Ongom, Wamale, Wambabia, and Laura Central Forest Reserves located in the northern, central, western, and West Nile regions respectively.
In 2016, ERA was recognized as an exemplary organization in terms of environmental compliance by the National Environment Management Authority. So it's one thing we are proud of.
And we have resolved to ensure that we have a sound environmental governance.
In order for us to conserve the forest reserves, we all have to come together. That is why today I am very much grateful to ERA for partnering with us, to work with us to restore up to 60 hectares of forest reserves in 4 different regions of Uganda.
I thank NFA and ERA for this important engagement, which is called the Wambabia Central Reserve, 5 hectares restoration. It's a very important engagement and it has come at the right time.
It is incumbent on us that we preserve nature, we conserve the central forest reserves, and also the trees even outside the forest reserves for this unique purpose.
Now, more than ever, our planet needs us to step up and take action towards its restoration and combat the huge and unprecedented rates of environmental degradation, desertification, and biodiversity depletion.
This is not an ordinary story about electricity. This is a story set in a country with shortage of electricity. A country that has so much potential to produce megawatts and megawatts of electricity. This is Uganda. Rich in culture, beauty, and land. This is a country with a long and rich history in producing sufficient electricity. The ongoing investments being made here are directed towards setting up a sustainable infrastructure. It creates wealth and industrialization and offers a stable livelihood to thousands of people in the country. It's not the only solution, but sustainable electricity generation can contribute to a diversified economy, which in turn sets in motion a positive impact.
The country was faced with a power supply crisis, and the government had to come up with a program that could incentivize private investors in power generation.
In May 2013, with support from development partners, Government of Uganda launched the Get Fit program to fast-track the development of renewable energy generation projects.
The objectives were to bring 170 megawatts of renewable energies to the grid by 2018.
This was aimed at managing the country's demand-supply balance before the commissioning of large hydro plants.
The program has been very successful. So far, 17 projects have been licensed, including 2 solar projects based in Soroti and Tororo.
But overall, I think the objectives of the program have been met. A lot of the framework that was intended to be set up in the Ugandan energy sector has now been set up. All the documents have been standardized, and it's easier for investors to come into the sector and develop renewable energy projects as a result of GetFit.
We have attracted private sector investment in the field, which was not forthcoming under the previous arrangement.
It is from this background that ERA had to organize a trip to these power plants so that they can acquaint themselves with the progress of GetFit projects. The board of ERA and members of the Natural Resources Committee of Parliament embarked on a monitoring tour of project sites and electrical installations.
On this tour, we have visited quite a number of projects. We visited the Hoima substation, the mini substation at Hoima. We visited the Waki hydropower project in western Uganda. We also visited the Kusi hydropower project, again in western Uganda. We visited Nyamwamba hydropower project, which is also under construction in Kasese. And we also visited the Ikenda substation, which is a transmission substation in Kasese. In the eastern part of the country, we have visited city 1 and City 2 hydropower projects with a combined generation capacity of 22 megawatts. And we have also visited the Access Solar PV project in Soroti, which is going to produce 10 megawatts.
I was impressed personally, and the community is very happy because this is the first plant that is trying to utilize our abundant sunshine, solar power to generate electricity. And they are going to generate 10 megawatts, which they will feed into the grid.
The visit for ERA has been very much appreciated. It was very good that the decision makers at the highest levels of government decided to visit these projects to get first-hand information.
This journey has acquainted us with the key information, what is being done in the sector.
We have done substantial progress, which is not probably known to the majority of the Ugandans. How much work is being done in the remote regions of Uganda, bringing renewable energy to electrify the masses of Uganda.
The challenge is that we did not go much into the taxation issues and their implications on the financial viability of these projects.
The biggest challenge I have seen is of land compensation. These wires, these high voltage wires, pass through people's land, and according to the law, land belongs to the people. So compensation, people have not been compensated, and people are not happy.
From these interactions, we found a challenge that we are generating a lot of power, but the trend at which we are distributing it to the consumer seems not to be moving at the same pace.
The biggest challenge has been the access to the project area. As you can see, it is a very remote area, and most of the year there is a lot of rain in this area, which is also the reason why we are here.
I must say I am happy. We saw very good work in Jinja. We saw good work in Dororo.
The government is doing a lot of work connecting up these remote villages with small renewable sources of energy so that the entire Uganda can be self-sufficient in electricity.
Looking forward, we expect that all of our projects should achieve financial close and commence construction this year.
We have enjoyed the support of ERA, who have been considerate in giving us a good license and good tariffs. And we look forward to continuing to contribute to the electricity supply in Uganda.
Now, Uganda is an internationally known destination for renewable energy investments, mainly as a result of
No, this is not an ordinary story about electricity. This is breathing new life into an industry that was thought to be lost entirely.
The existence of humans and the sustainability of economic activity . Of the electricity supply industry has restored the integrity of natural forests located in catchment areas of rivers that support hydropower generation.
This project is very vital to the electricity supply industry because forests are a catchment area for rivers. We use rivers to generate hydroelectricity power. So for sustainability of generation, we need the forests. So it is a matter of sustainability of electricity supply.
Much as the goal might be to ERA, but to us as NFA, we embrace such partnerships for purposes of forest restoration, looking at how the forests for a long time have suffered a continuous downward decline over a long period of time, which has been as a result of unsustainable human activities. So when we get such partnerships, we embrace them because they help us to restore.
The restoration has been conducted through the planting of assorted indigenous tree species in each Central Forest Reserve managed by the National Forestry Authority in order to restore the forest ecosystem values, including the water and tree stocks lost from the reserves as a result of forest degradation.
We shall ensure that the plants sustainably generate power, because once the forest recovers, it will ensure sustainability. And it's not only this forest. Members of Parliament here present, the chairperson of the Electricity Regulatory Authority, the CEO of the authority, captains of industry, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Toza Magangi, the Managing Director of ESCOM Uganda. We are here today to defend our application our tariff application for the 3 months of 2023, as our concession is coming to an end, preparing for handing over of the assets to the government of Uganda. This will be our last tariff application, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank the government of Uganda and the people of Uganda for giving us the opportunity and trusting us with the assets to run on their behalf, and also being part of Uganda's socio-economic journey throughout the years. We appreciate as ESCOM for the opportunity that was given to us. I will take this opportunity, Madam Chair, to request the Finance Director to take us through the tariff application. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, the Authority Chairperson and the Presiding Officer, the CEO of the Authority, the CEOs of the electricity supply industries, and the fellow captains in the industry, all the members that are present, the public. As mentioned, my name is Stephen Vyaruhanga. I'm the Finance Director of ESCOM. And thank you, MD, for the opportunity to continue from where you stopped. I will also appreciate Secretary to the Authority for relaxing some of the rules. Last year, we were not allowed to clap, but at least today, this time around, we've been allowed to clap. So thank you very much for those considerations. I thought the people who have been long in the sector struggling to do this, we've not been using Okay. As the MD indicated, that is where the complex we are looking after is located, just the aerial view before you cross over to eastern Uganda. Now with the new bridge, you might miss out to see Narubala and Kira, but we are around there. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be the table of content, and in the interest of time, I will not go through that, but I'll just mention that the tariff that we apply to the authority is in consideration of the various governing contracts that we have with government, and these are the license agreement which we have with the regulator, the concession and assignment agreement with the asset owner, UGCL, the power purchase agreement that we have with the Uganda Electricity Transmission Company, and then the support agreement which we have with the Minister of Finance. So basically, our mandate is to operate and maintain the two power stations, and within those contracts is mainly to comply. As mentioned by the MD, we as old as the camera phones. I was checking that in 2003, that's when the camera phones were invented, and that was the year when ESCOM Uganda came to the industry. Unlike the camera phones that are going to stay, ESCOM by March next year, we will be handing over the assets to government, and I also want to add my voice to say thank you. But at the moment, we have 127 employees, and when I saw the presentation from UGCL, they're going to take on 126 employees, which is a demonstration that is going to be a smooth transition. The availability of the plant is currently sitting above 97%. That is how the two power stations are always available. And in 2022, our projected production has been at 1.5 million gigawatt hours. In terms of the key assumptions that we put in the 3 months that we submitted for review and approval, we mainly consider the hydrology, and this is regulated by DWRM, and so that there is sustainable usage of the lake by all the stakeholders, and we're looking at 1,000 cumecs, and when we use that, we are able to generate an average of 176 megawatts, but overall, in terms of the tested capacity of the complex, the last testing, we were able to get 319, but we're also projecting that with all the units, if we are able to test Narubala alone and test Kira alone, we are able to get 378 megawatts out of the 380 installed capacity. So the reason why the two cannot run together is because by design, if we do that, then there will be likely flooding at Narubala side, which means that we have to cut on water discharge, so that on average, we are able to get 345 megawatts out of the 380 installed capacity for the two complex. And currently, the conservation factor is sitting at 20, and 20 cubic meters per unit. And the GMC, which was already approved because it was under the multi-year tariff approval, we're here in 2018 and defended it. It was successfully approved. And that is, for the 3 months, is going to be 2.4 million US dollars. And the concession royalties and license fees, those are normally pass-through costs, which are determined by the regulator. The implications of this tariff is suggest that based on the water that we have, that we are likely to have for next quarter, that is going to give us an average of around 376 gigawatt hours for the 3 months. And we see that averagely, we're able to get around 1.5 consistently in 2021, 2022. So based on the current refurbishments that have been undertaken, that is how much performance that can come out of the units. And from the investment side, obviously, as we are in transition, there will be no new investments that we've asked for implementation in the next quarter. So as UGCL indicated, they will continue with the continual making sure that the plants remain sustainable. So in terms of contribution to the grid, the complex at Narubala and Kira contributes around 29%, and followed by Jagari and the rest of the other producers to the grid. So that indicates that indeed the two complexes remain significant in the grid mix, as the UTCL colleague indicated. And in terms of 2022, the investments that we have carried out and completed, that's the distribution. The greatest chunk is to support the electrical system, followed by the mechanical systems and the civil systems. So by the end of the year, we will have added around 6.8 million US dollars. So cumulatively, over the 20 years, we've managed to invest into the complex to a tune of 52 million US dollars. And when the chew and the egg time comes, I don't want to be like the preacher who told the congregation that Jesus fed 5,000 people. And the question was, can you name them? So I will not be able to name them right now, but that is the value. And if you look at the distribution, the electrical projects have taken the greatest chunk in that green section, followed by the mechanical section over the years, and followed by the civil projects. So basically that is still, in terms of distribution between Kira and Narubare, greatest investments have been put into Narubare, or for obvious reason in terms of age. Narubare is over 60 years compared to Kira, which will be making 20 years soon. If you look at the target, all the investments that have been approved over the years since inception, we see that the regulator had approved about 59 million US dollars, and currently we have completed 52, which translates to 89%. And I believe that every institution in Uganda, 89% is a D1. The others are ongoing and will be completed by the end of the year. And the impact of these have significantly supported the sustainability and availability of power. You see that by the time we took over the complex, the number of breakdowns were averaging around 8 or 9. And these are breakdowns which you cannot restore within a day. It means you have to keep fighting until the other day comes through. So we've reduced those now from 8, 9, currently they're at an average of 10, which means that they are less than 1 per unit, which from international best practice is slightly above best industry averages. That is the key project we are currently concluding. Among the projects that we are doing is the refurbishment and bringing back Unit 10 to online. Those are some of the works. We have finalized installing the exciter system, the transformers for that unit. The hub has also been completed and the blades have been all assembled. So basically, based on the progress that we have made, we are projecting that that's going to be our Christmas gift, so that we are able to bring back Unit 10 online. The skills development that obviously this is around, we've injected around 2.8 million US dollars, which is around an average of $25,000 per employee over the years. And looking at the current complement, where 97% of the complement are Ugandans and only 3% are South African. The question around transition is whether there's going to be sustainability. It's our belief that with this level of training and capacity building that we have done over the years, as demonstrated by the complement of Ugandans that are manning the plant, we believe that the transition is going to be smooth and sustainable. So basically, those are the key points that I wanted to make. And availability has been maintained above 94%, which is the minimum target that was given to us by the regulator. And we have seen that even as we have undertaken all these investments, from a safety perspective, as end of October, we've registered over 11 years without a lost time injury, which means that safety has been very core in all our operations. So as part of the obligations towards transition, this is a very good, important slide that I wanted to share here, is that an independent engineer was assigned to just come and assess whether we have operated and maintained the complex following prudent utility practices and original equipment manufacturers. So the conclusion that was done by Hatch, a Canadian engineering company, consultants, was that the complex was operated following prudent utility practices, and some of the key main conclusions that were done out of this was that because of that, the main dam and the entire power station now is quite more sound and robust. Naruvale Power Dam now has been estimated to have another remaining useful life of 60 years. When we took over the complex, the baseline survey that was done by Lamea, a German consultant, had given that main dam 34 years if nothing was done. But right now we are saying different interventions and remedial actions that have been taken. Right now it is now has been given a life of 60 years. If you look at the Naruvale Power House, the civil structure, when we took over in 2003, Lamea had given it 4 years if nothing had been done on it to stop supporting the plant. But after different interventions, the current report now has given it another life of 30 years of running. The major equipment, unfortunately, the report did not concentrate on that, but those are sitting between 10 and 40, and these are obviously the electromechanical systems, whose life on average is around 10 to 20 years. So regularly they get to that level where they need to be replaced. Kira is fairly new, and the report says it has another 86 years to run. The powerhouse civil structure has another 60 years to run, and the major equipment 30 to 60, which pretty much confirms that the two power stations will continue to be a critical component within the grid, and I think that is good news, which confirms that perhaps it was the right decision to concession the assets by then. With those few remarks, thank you for listening, and if I don't see you, Merry Christmas. May God be with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ESCOM Uganda Limited. Finally, we come to presentation by Umeme Limited. Thank you.
Chairperson of the Electricity Regulatory Authority Board, CEO, all protocols observed. My name is Blessing Nshaho, Chief Corporate and Regulatory Officer of Umeme Limited, representing the Managing Director in presenting our tariff application for the year 2023, and please receive warm greetings from the MD who is engaging with staff at this moment. In terms of our presentation, I'll focus on 4 things. So a very brief overview of who we are for those who do not know. Talk a little bit about how we've transitioned things since the start of the concession in 2005. Look at how we've performed in 2022, and then talk about what we're going to do in 2023 and our revenue requirement. This is potentially the last time you will see this structure the way it is, because UEGCL, TCL, and DCL are being merged. And they also, so at the end of next year, we'll see a different picture there. But right now we have a lease and assignment agreement with UEDCL, and we have a power sales agreement with UETCL, and we have 2 licenses from the Electricity Regulatory Authority for distribution and supply, and the entire sector is overseen by the ministry. So that is where we sit as UMEME, and what we do is distribution at 3311 kV and below. When we say kV, we're saying thousands, so 33,000 volts, 11,000 volts and below. In terms of what we do, in terms of the licensed activities, we have a 10-year network master plan. This is the plan, and we've updated it. So it is now 2023 to 2030, and this is with the regulatory authority as well as UEDCL, and it shows our plans in detail, how we intend to evolve the network to deliver excellent, electricity supply services to the citizens of Uganda within our authorized territory. Based on that, we come up with the annual capital investment plans, and we submitted our plan for 2023 to the regulator at the end of September, and they're reviewing it currently, and we had an exit meeting recently. And then based on that, once we get approvals, we then raise the funding and we design the detailed scoping of these projects, and then we execute in terms of construction number 4 of the MV and LV networks, and then we buy power from transmission and sell it to customers. And then we ensure that people are on supply. In terms of where we are as a business, we have 2,300 full-time employees and 800 contractors. So on any given day, we have 3,100 people working to make sure that these electrons are delivered to the end user. And we distribute electricity to over 97% of the sales within the country. We are a Ugandan company. We're listed on the Uganda Stock Exchange, Securities Exchange, and also cross-listed on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. 35% of the company is owned by Ugandans, of which 1.5% is owned by staff. In terms of the 3,100 staff, about 3 are non-Ugandans. 2,997 are Ugandans. We operate and maintain 44,000 kilometers of line, over 14,000 transformers, about 15,000 transformers now, and 68 substations. We serve 1.7 million customers. When we came in 2005, there were about 250,000 customers that we took over. So we've added another 1.45 million customers to the grid in the last 17 years. Some of you may have had access to a document at the back called Pulse. If you go into that document on page 35, 36, you will see this diagram, which is our impact, UMEME's journey. So I'm not going to go through it in detail for purposes of time, but it outlines the value that we have delivered to Uganda as a country, and I would encourage you to go through that document and also to look at this on our website and also all our social media handles. In terms of safety over the years, we used to be in double digits in terms of people dying as a result of the network. And one of the most important things to us, actually the number one value of the company is safety. We didn't come to kill anybody. That's the reality. We came to ensure that we can socioeconomically transform this country through delivering safe, good quality, reliable power. The good news is that over the years, we've been able to transition from double-digit fatalities to single-digit. And this year so far, we've only had 6 fatalities as at the time we were submitting this report. In terms of electricity demand, during the period, you will notice, and this is really for the first half of the 5 years from 2018 to 2022, you will notice that every year we have been growing other than 2020 as a result of COVID-19, especially during that lockdown period from March to June in relation to these specific results. But otherwise, we're seeing double-digit growth. And in the first half of this year, we grew sales by 9%. And currently, for the year to date, we are seeing sales at 10% in terms of growth. Still on sales, when we look at the customer categories, we have the domestic, commercial, industrial, LV, industrial HV, industrial EV, the industrial parks, the pilot project for this year, street lighting and public amenities. And this is where you will see that for the first half of this year, up to June, we were able to sell 1,875 gigawatt hours. And of course, you will note that the largest percentage is consumed by the industrial categories. You will note that about 30% of our electricity sales in terms of revenue actually comes from domestic. 70% is from productive use. In terms of energy losses, we were on track to deliver on the 6-year tariff review performance parameters. When we started 2020, at the end of 2019, we were at 16.4% for the year 2019. When we went into 2020, the target was to get to 14.5% in that year. In Feb, we were at 15% in-month losses, but then COVID hit. And as a result, our losses actually skyrocketed within the space of 3 months to about 20.9%. And ever since, it's been a battle to try and bring the losses back down. For the full year 2021, we ended at 18%. And by half year 2022, we were at 17.1%. And the losses in Q3 of this year have also continued to go down. So as of end of September, we're at about 16.6% for full year, and we hope that we should be able to continue on that trend. The target for the year is 13.6% within the tariff. So you can see that we are significantly above that target. We did apply to the regulator for a revision of those targets based on COVID-19, the impact of COVID-19. However, the targets were retained. So we continue to fight to try and deliver on the targets. In terms of revenue collections, our target for this year is 99.84%, and I think you'll see in a different slide later that we're currently at 99.83 in terms of the half-year results, so the first 6 months of this year. And as you will note, we've been doing reasonably well at around the 99-100% mark over the last 5 years. In terms of customer connections, we have been able to grow the numbers from 1.636 million at the end of last year. We are now at 1.735 million customers. And you will note that 60,000 customers actually paid for their connections, the full connection cost. We had 36,000 connections that came from funding from ADB, KFW, and other ECP-related connections brought in another 3,000, so we are now at 1.7 million, which is great. As you will see, 33% of revenues attributed to prepaid customers, because prepayment customers are not just domestic customers. We also have some non-domestic customers who are also on prepayment, including government of Uganda institutions. In terms of the drive to cost efficiency, January to June, we note that the operational cost per kilowatt hour has come down to 61 compared to 72 shillings last year. And the reason is because we did a reorganization at the beginning of the year, and we did what we called zoning. So we zoned the entire country and were able to appoint specific engineers for each zone, with teams under them responsible for everything. So in the past, we would have different people responsible for metering, different people responsible for things like reliability and so on, connections. Now we have teams that are designed to do everything all within one specific zone. As a result, we've seen these cost efficiencies improve. Also, what we've done is we've insourced. So this year, we've brought in an additional 700 staff. So we're taking away some work from the contractors who we felt were not really delivering to the customer as per our expectations, and we brought that work in-house, and that has enabled us to significantly reduce costs. And so for the first time, you will see that H1 cost at 32 million versus a full year allowance of 63, we should be able to hit the DOMC target in terms of costs for this year for the first time actually. Every year we've been overspending because the DOMC has not been sufficient, but we've reorganized in terms of our perspectives of how we operate to try and fit in within the budget. In terms of highlights for 2022, you'll note that there was some inflationary pressure as a result of the tail end of COVID-19, but also especially the geopolitical issues around the Russia-Ukraine war. And as a result of that, we've seen fuel prices go up, we've seen wheat prices go up, food prices go up, and so on. And so we've seen inflation, as you can note, at about 11% as of October 2022. And obviously, as a result of all these pressures, there was a slight increment in the tariff for Q4, and we thank the customers for bearing with us for that to make sure that we can adjust for that inflation as has been done by the regulator. In terms of other issues that affected us this year, highlights of the amendment of the Electricity Act, specifically relating to our operations and nothing else. We've seen that, of course, now 10-year imprisonment or 1 billion shilling fine for those who are involved in vandalism or power theft, and so we thank the government for that. The introduction of net metering that we should see coming into play in 2023 and beyond based on the regulations being put in place by the regulator, as well as the removal of the single buyer model, where we'll have generators being able to sell directly to consumers. So we'll be looking at that next year to see the impact on the business. In terms of the investments that we made in 2022 to ensure that we are able to keep you on supply, there has been a lot of reliability improvement projects, as you see under the benefits. We've been able to do 150 transformer injections. I apologize for the fact that the text is small and you can't see. I thought that we had enlarged it well enough, but we have a whole list of projects there, and since these will be available for you on the ERA website, you'll be able to see those. This is also a second page of some of the projects that we've been working on, especially around different feeders and also upgrading some of the power transformers at Port Bell, Kisugu, Mbarara, to make sure that we can enhance the capacities because of the load profiles that we're experiencing there. In terms of operation and maintenance, I think we've done a decent job this year. I think case in point was Kabale substation where the power transformer failed, but within 24 hours we were able to get that power transformer replaced with one that we shipped directly from Kampala, and we had it transported, installed and operational within 48 hours. There were over 9,000 customers within Central Kabale who were affected for 2 days without power, but were able to communicate effectively to get them back up and running. We've also been deploying additional technology in transformer repairs, like for example, what you see here in Kasokoso. Beyond that, we also had some challenges in the north, where we had the Kwanya. There was a flood that was affecting Lira and Dokolo, and the team had to keep going to support this transformer, which actually powers the national water power plant, water plant there that serves Lira. So if these guys didn't get this specialized equipment and boats, you would have Lira not having sufficient water. We have been significantly affected by vandalism, which is unfortunate. And even last night, I had no power at home because there were some vandalized towers on the UETCL network. And as a result of that, we had to go into load shedding. This is not the first time we've done load shedding. We also did load shedding last month, if you remember, when 4 UETCL towers also went down again. One of the most important things for us in terms of reliability is ensuring that our supplier is able to actually deliver electrons to us to sell to customers. So I reiterate what transmission has said and said, please, if you could do whatever you can to ensure that vandalism ends. In terms of revenue collection, as I mentioned earlier on, we are at 99.83%, and we were able to go to some of our customers, especially the large power users, and give them certificates thanking them for what they had done in terms of paying their bills online. So this picture here that you see is just taken from the internet, where Harris International actually on their social media handle posted a picture of the certificate they got. We have also been refurbishing our offices. So this is an example, Metro Service Center, where we have totally redesigned the inner parts of the office and the outer parts to make sure that we can deliver an excellent customer experience and also that staff can have good working environment. In the central region, we've done Metro, Entebbe, Mukono, Mitiana, Jinja, and also when you look at the other branches up country, we've done Masaka, Mbarara, Kabale, Chisoro, Kasese, Kamuli. All those have been redone this year to the standard that we set in the Fort Portal Service Center. We've also digitized the customer journey further. So while you can apply for a connection online or via the Umeme app, we've also now digitized the wireman. So working very closely with ERA, we've been able to onboard all the wiremen into a digital platform. They're all registered there. So when they wire your house, they can straight away on the platform say, this house is now wired. So as Umeme, we will know immediately. And then they can even apply for the connections through that digital platform. In terms of energy losses, to try and get the losses down, we've been engaging with the community to make sure through Project Pamoja, which means together, that... Thank you very much, Chair. We have retrained some of the uncertified wiremen to make sure that they get proper certification, done some entrepreneurship training, and also done a street lighting pilot project in the community. This was in Nakulabia. As I talk about community, as you know, we're Ugandans, that's where we belong, work, and serve. And we've been involved in other projects, the Twake project in Chiwumu, working with ERA on the Mwanamujimu Kitchen e-cooking project, as well as other CSR activities. And this is just a picture of some of the things that we've been involved in terms of the eye clinic, surgical camps, supporting Situmi Primary School, the Rotary Cancer Run, and so on and so forth. Cure Run, etc. In terms of 2023, the environment which we operate in, as you know, is a challenging one. So we have changes that are happening within the sector, amendment of the Act, Karuma coming on board, and we should be seeing the UDB Connections Loan Program, which will be launched next week, coming into play, as well as the Energy Access Scale-Up Project, which has now been approved by Parliament, kicking in. So we will be focusing on maintaining zero fatalities, community engagements, corporate social investments, connecting over 300,000 customers, investing in supply reliability, concluding the geospatial network information systems and the utility customer information system projects. We'll be opening a service center in Kapchorwa, and we'll also be expanding the network with a number of projects the regulator is going to approve. The aim will be to reduce losses to 13.2%, collect 99.8% of revenue. We'll try to, for the first time, create a smart grid, especially within the Kampala area, partnering with some technology companies as we prepare for the sector transition. We'll, on the people side, be consolidating on our zoning strategy that I mentioned, staff capacity and capability development, staff retention, and actually recruiting more staff. Some of the projects for 2023 include the Hoima substation refurbishment, which we have applied for, West Bank switching station, MMP phase 2, Bombo reliability improvement plan, the Kampala CBD network optimization, doing another 150 transformer injections, supporting Loero Industries, Toro Cement, the integration of UETCL Luzira, Mbale substation capacity upgrade, establishment of a substation at Chigo where there is significant growth, and so on. There is a whole list of projects that you'll be able to see there. Now, to conclude, gross investment costs of $115 million, net investments of 100, the net operating costs at 68, which had already been pre-approved by the regulator in the 2019 to 2025 tariff performance parameters. That's why we've not put it in detail, because there was a public hearing where we went through the details of that. And so what we're asking for is a revenue requirement of $168 million and a distribution price of 168 shillings per kilowatt hour. The support we need from the regulator is to continue to support us in the recovery of investment costs, for the government recovery of the ECP funds spent and financing for new connections as mentioned with the Energy Access Scale-Up project. From the customers, it has to do with the power theft and vandalism, if you can report whenever you see that, and for customers to pay their bills on time. I thank you very much, and I wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
The participants online, you can raise your hand online, and you will have at least two questions, not more than that, per person. The discussion is open. Can you raise up your hands? I'm not seeing anyone online. Online, you can have your questions on the chat room, or you can actually raise your hand. I will be able to see your hand. Yes, that is one. The next, yes, Kakira, another. Okay, can you move the microphone around, Mr. Kasita?
Am I good to go?
Please.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, ERA, for organizing this summit, consultative workshop. My name is Dan Malon. I'm a member of the Hydropower Association of Uganda and also Uganda Consumer Action Network. Mine is a quick one, it's just one. I think it's a comment on the very last presentation from Umeme. I think I like the progress that has been made by Umeme, except that I think there was somewhere where Blessing was mentioning about the fatalities. Me as a consumer rights advocate, that is one of my biggest interests. It is very unfair and very unfortunate when we talk about something like as bad as fatality, something to do with our own lives, and of course he was giving a positive impression that the curve has gone down from the double digits to 6, but of course he was also betrayed by the 11 just before the 6. I think because there was 11, which was a double digit before the 6. But one thing that we should take in mind, bear in mind, is that behind the statistics, there are actual human beings. If a person has been affected, if a person has died, it's not something like when the military say he has been silenced. Each of these persons, each of us have a list. So sometimes when we're talking about some of these things, let's not be emotionless. Let's also be kind enough to think about the list of dependents that are behind the fatalities that we're talking about, not just a mere statistic. I want to thank you.
Thank you. Kakira? As I wait for online participants to raise their hands, allow me to recognize another member of the board, Engineer Elias Yemba, is also attending virtually. Yes, please go ahead.
Good
afternoon. I'm Farhan from Kakira. Thank you for this opportunity. My comment is essentially twofold. It's on the format of the presentation. And I think it would help if ERA started with a summary of what is going on in the sector, which puts all of these programs into perspective. If I look specifically at UETCL, their sales are increasing by 1255 gigawatt hours in the 3 years. But when you put on Karuma is 4,700 GWH. So where is that difference going to go? And none of this has addressed the rumors coming on. And that's what we do need to understand, because tariffs must be set knowing that this power is going to come on. I also saw that UETCL exports in quantity terms are decreasing marginally over the 3 years, if you look at the gigawatt hours numbers. So exports, to my mind, is a great potential, and there should be more focus on UETCL increasing its role on exports. Their capex is also increasing. The second comment was on the UEGCL presentation, which covered Kira and Nalbale, but UEGCL owns Isimba and it owns Karuma, or is an operating agency for those two. And these, if you look at all three together, then Kira and Nalbale are only 33% of the energy that UEGCL will be handling. So should we not also consider those and their tariff as it will impact the future? Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Another contribution? If it's not there, let me allow responses as we wait for more people to ask. So you would like to say something?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the two submissions, I think they are for improvement in the presentational aspect. The first one was reflecting on the presentation of the fatalities under the Umeme presentation, where the member is concerned that the presenter was presenting about fatalities, but the emotions were not showing that actually this leads to loss of life and livelihood for all the dependents. Of course, the numbers help us to assess progress. But again, these numbers capture fatalities resulting from actions or omissions of Umeme. We know that there are fatalities resulting from the law of unintended consequences, like the power theft through cloth wires, through vandalism, and also these are fatalities. And to the electricity supply industry, chairperson, we don't want anybody to die because of electricity, irrespective of whether is participating in an illegality or not. We should work towards putting in place mitigants to ensure that the population enjoys the use of electrons safely. Chair, the other one is on the regional power exports. I think this is an interim solution that we use as we grow our own indigenous demand, because we are running with various programs to accelerate access to clean energy as a country. And this would take, again, a full half day. So in this public hearing, we focus on the received applications and give opportunity to the public to question and respond to these applications the way they have been submitted. Concerning Isimba and Karuma, they have separate licenses with the tariffs determined, which are only adjusted on an annual basis for changes in macroeconomics. So those ones are already catered for. They are like the other IPPs, although these ones are publicly on the plants. The capex is increasing, yes. As we yearn to accelerate access to clean energy, we must extend the backbone, that is the transmission grid, as well as extend the distribution network to ensure that the electrons reach the people. The reality is that we don't have surplus generation. We have suppressed demand. Suppressed because in a phased manner, government is putting in place several mechanisms to ensure that these electrons reach our people and we wean them off hazardous sources of energy so that they are able to enjoy clean energy, including electricity for cooking. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, CEO ERA. Umeme, why are you not showing sadness? And UEGCL, you can also supplement on the issues raised to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to you, Chair. I had 20 minutes. The CEO knows I talk a lot. And all my colleagues, so I was trying to go through it. But the honest truth is this, as I said, safety is our #1 value. I'm a Ugandan, I have a family. These 6 that you saw are what we call non-attributable fatalities. So power theft, I think you've seen even in the papers, there was a gentleman who climbed trying to steal power and got caught and died. You find that there was also a family where there was a wire that was touching mabati, then touched the washing line, and then this one, you know, is hanging clothes, gets caught. The daughter comes out, touches, gets caught, they both die. These things are extremely sad. We do not want to see a single Ugandan or any other resident of Uganda die from electricity. What we've done is we've brought about 80,000 80,000 meters of plastic line that we have given to the communities free of charge in all the areas where we have seen that they have these metal wires that they're using for washing lines. We've been doing a lot of community engagement. And I know there was a question on the issue of the format of the presentations, and you will have probably noted it in our presentation, we focus so much on what we're doing in the community. And the reason is simply because we are the last mile. We engage with the end user who is the one buying that electron, and we care about their lives dearly. So there is so much that we do. One of the biggest areas where we had problems was in the Elgon sub-region, Mbale area and so on. We had to go and engage with the communities and beg them, plead with them. Some of those areas we had to change the lines from bare wire to what we call ABC, aerial banded conductor, where you can't touch and die. So these are some of the things that we've been doing. Yes, these are numbers. We don't want a single person dead. I would never want to compare us with another country. I know that in Kenya, if you look at their numbers, they're in triple digit. But we have been fighting as Uganda to say, can we get to 0? We don't want a single person dead. So every life counts, and we can't value a single life. So I apologize for the lack of emotion, but it was an issue of time. I was trying to get it done. Thank you very much, Chair.
Yeah, at least the tone and the facial expression is
Yes.
good enough for...
And maybe, Chair,
Okay.
on the numbers, there was the issue of demand. With the Energy Access Scale-Up project that's coming, and also with the Uganda Development Bank loan scheme, which will be launched next week, that will bring the price of a connection down to 470,000 shillings. Our hope is that we can accelerate connecting customers and triple the numbers that we've been doing annually. And that way, the suppressed demand that the CEO was talking about can then come to play. And that way, we can utilize the effective generation capacity that we have. And as Karuma comes on board, we also have other industry players coming in. You will have noticed in our investment plan that there are some large industries where we are also supporting them with the dedicated lines because they are increasing their capacity. So we've been engaging with the large power users. Interestingly, most of them have indicated desire to either grow their capacity by 1/3 or even 2/3. And as a result, we're also providing that investment support to make sure that we can take up that utilization. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, UEGCL.
Thank you very much, Chair. Maybe just to reiterate what the CEO of ERA has said concerning the Isimba and Karuma, why we are not seeing it here, is because Isimba and Karuma has a different type of license. Our license is for 40 years with a fixed tariff over that period to cater for, of course, the loan repayment, but also running of the plant. So that's why it's not often presented in these discussions. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have another round of questions? Any more questions? Are you satisfied with the presentations?
Thank you, Madam. My name is Mr. Peter Bwanika. I'm a private operator in Kofi and Kwale. Some time back, we are getting safety in Semuto. We tried our best, we reported the case, but good enough, ERA worked hard to pick up those guys who were vandalizing the line. Some time back, last month, we got another safety. We got thieves digging underground, connecting my transformer. Good enough, we wrecked that man. We reported the case to Semuto. Immediately, we informed the ERA. That gentleman, we made the report. Witnesses, he was picked and brought to Kampala for further investigation. It was last Friday, I got a call from a side who was sent by ERA that this gentleman has been in prison for 70 days and human rights can take action on him. The gentleman was released up to now because he was lacking a second witness. I went back, we made a statement. Up to now, we don't know what is going on. If that case is not attended, the group is going to grow up, we get lines being vandalized. We wish we could be helped when we get such thieves. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peter Bwanika. Another question? Yes. If there is no other question, then Kakira can come again.
My only request is if the Isimba and Karuma PPAs are public documents, can we see them just to know what the tariff is going to be and what the factors are?
Okay. Isimba tariff? UEGCL. Have they left the room? Okay.
To respond to that, our tariff is in the license. I am not yet sure about the confidentiality agreements with regards to making it a public document, but I would need to consult further.
Okay, can I suggest that questions that are not related to tariff they have been registered and they can be followed up later. Let's focus on tariff-related questions and issues to do with the cost. Well, is there anyone online? No more hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we need another round of applause. We are doing very well in terms of time. So can I invite the rapporteur, that's the secretary to the authority, Councillor Stephen. Please give us a summary of the proceedings of this year's public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to give a high-level summary of today's engagement. One, I note everyone has been very attentive, so I don't need to go into great detail. In this public hearing, we have received 5 applications. The first from UGCL, and the application was for a revenue requirement of 58 billion shillings. The next was from UETCL, and UETCL is under the regime of multi-year tariff, and the summary of the revenue requirement for 2021 trillion. For 2024 is 1.64 trillion Uganda shillings, and for 2025 is 1.66 trillion Uganda shillings. The third one was from UEDCL. UEDCL highlighted its strategic focus areas for the year, being business growth, sustainability, customer service, excellence, and operational efficiency. Its revenue requirement is 42.9 billion Uganda shillings. The fourth one was from ESCOM Uganda Limited. In the preamble, they mentioned that it's for a 3-month period, taking into account that the concession is coming to an end, and it's expected that assets will be handed over to the asset owner. It also highlighted that they don't expect to make any new investment during this period, and that over the 20-year period, an investment of $52 million had been made. Finally, that they expect a smooth and seamless transition. The application is for Uganda shillings 101,226.21 per megawatt per hour, and it was based on a number of factors which were detailed and explained in the application. The last application was from Omeme Limited. It was very detailed, and you are 48.783 billion, and the distribution price is 168 shillings per kilowatt hour. Umeme indicated in summary that it requires support from the regulator to ensure recovery of investment costs from the government, to ensure recovery of ECP funds, and financing for new connections from the customers and the public, that is you and I, to report power theft and vandalism, and to pay our bills on time. Unlike last year, this year we didn't receive many comments. We received 5 comments from yourselves, and I believe they have been comprehensively responded to. With that high-level summary, I would like, on my own behalf, to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Secretary to the Authority, for summarizing our proceedings. We are now going to the last item, which is conclusion and closure. And I have the special privilege of doing that. Distinguished participants in this year's public hearing for tariff determination and other decisions for 2023, allow me to appreciate all the presenters who have made well-prepared papers for the stakeholders in the electricity supply industry. They deserve another round of applause. And allow me to thank each and every one of you for making time to participate, either physically or online, in this year's public hearing. In a special way, I want to appreciate ESCOM Uganda Limited. You have very few months for us in the sector, but for now, allow me to commend you for a job well done. You have prudently managed the oldest complex in this country. Thank you very much. And allow me to specially thank the ME, my sister Gambi. You have been very central in our program of women in energy. You've inspired the young girls of this country. I want to thank you very much for that. I know time will come when we shall officially witness, as a regulator, the official handover. We shall say more, but I have to thank you. Maybe by that time I'll be gone. So I must thank you for all the accomplishments you have made for our sector. Maybe not yet, you still have some years. We shall say that things when the time comes. Allow me to say that all these papers that have been presented today today. We are already on our ERA website. So please visit our website. If you have further queries, you can still communicate to us through that forum. And I want to say that next you hear from us as an authority after determining the tariffs for 2023. And our decisions are always published. They are published in almost all the media that is known in this country, including our website. I want to thank you for being very good participants, for keeping time. Providing lunch, so lunch will be at your own pocket level. That's why we are releasing you early, so that you are able to sort out your own lunch. Allow me on behalf of the board and management and staff of the Electricity Regulatory Authority to wish you a Merry Christmas and a happy 2023. For God and my country, thank you very much. Can I, by virtue of powers entrusted to me, declare that the public hearing for tariff determination and other decisions in 2023 is closed. Julius, give us a closing prayer. Thank you.
I want to pray on the podium just for pictures. Chair, thank you so much for the opportunity. I mean, that I was asked that those who need these presentations, they'll be available on ERA's website. And for those with complaints, we have a Consumer Protection Center just down here on plot 15 Shimon Road. And pictures will be available on request, and I think mine will be one of those. And then there will be a media briefing when we close. Casita has already organized behind there the press banner. Those of you who want to interview the chair, the CEO, and the presenters who will do that behind there. So may I request that you believe with me in your faith so that I pray. You might wish to stand because after the prayer you're walking out anyway. Lord in heaven, we thank you for this day. Thank you for a successful public hearing. We ask that going forward, you give the board insight and wisdom as they take decisions concerning these applications for the good of Uganda, our country. We pray for everyone here that you take charge of them even as they go back home. In Christ Jesus, I pray. Thank you very much. Enjoy your journey back, but I'm told lunch is available on your own cost in the restaurant.